It's 4 o'clock on a Wednesday, and you know what that means, don't you? It's time for another exciting episode of Taxi's Members Only Happy Hour. Oh, I might have to shorten that name. Hello, everybody. First of all, let me say hello to Greg Carrozza, who's actually, it was his idea to do a show about this, which we'll tell you about in a moment. But for now, I just want to say thank you, Greg. It was a good idea. I'm glad you volunteered it, and it got me off my butt to do the Quarantini, son of Quarantini. So because this is informal and Quarantini-like, I'm going to say hello to Heidi, Marion, Ken, Peaches, Pat, Carl, Stu, Nancy Colell, Vincent and Katina, Riney Bear, Mark Feel, Chris Freeman, Eric Anderson. Wow, the regulars are here. It's just like the old days. Gosh, I wish we all had COVID. Kidding, of course. I'm telling you, I'm one of the few people I know that actually liked the lockdown, and it was largely because of the Quarantinis. Wow, there's somebody from your neck of the woods, Michael Wilson from Albuquerque.
Nice.
Greg's in Albuquerque. But half of them still in Philadelphia. Anyway, for those of you who may not know Greg, which I think is impossible at this point, that is Greg Carrozza, who was a two-time loser previously with Taxi, came back a couple of years ago and decided to get it right, and has been quite successful and growing ever more so by the month. And I'm very proud of him and very grateful because he's got his head screwed on straight and always gives good advice. So in a moment, I'm going to turn the floor over to him, although I may interact. Dean Crapane's here, too. Wow. Keith LeBrant got his beer ready to hang. Wow, this is just, man, I'm going to cry. I'm so moved. No, this is very cool. Dean Turner's here, Michael Johnson. Wow, Tim Harrison, everybody. So, first of all, I want to wish a fond farewell to somebody that's been a keynote speaker at the Road Rally in the past. Robbie Robertson passed away earlier today. Robbie Robertson of the band, for you youngsters who don't remember. He was a great interview. We actually had him as our keynote when the Road Rally took place for 2 years at Hollywood and Highland. Not my favorite hotel to do road rallies at, so we went back to the Westin, which we're happy about. But Robbie was an excellent interview and a really, really, really good guy and kind of defined the word cool. He was one of those people that was so cool but didn't even have to work at it a little bit. He was just born that way. So Robbie, may you rest in peace. Thanks for the memories, and your legacy lives on. By the way, Robbie's son was actually our head screener for a while at Taxi. That's how I actually got him. Yeah, Robbie has a son named Sebastian, and he started as a regular screener and then became head screener at some point. The other thing I want to talk about, other than the fact that this is the inaugural members-only happy hour, is I mentioned that thing. You know what? I'm going to tell you that later in the episode. I'm going to let the place fill up a little bit. But don't let me forget to tell you about something that we've never done in the previous 26 years of road rallies. And after speaking with the person that's going to present this the other night at some length, I was so blown away. I said to him, this might literally be the single best thing, especially for instrumental composers working in the sync side of things, might be the single best thing that we've ever put on stage at the Road Rally for that crowd. So I will tell you in a while, but Greg, tell us why you called me or emailed me and said, I want to be your guest on TAXITV to talk about, ta-da, what was it?
Okay. Well, it wasn't like that exactly.
Oh, how was it exactly? I don't remember. I'm old.
You kind of tangentially were mentioning some reasons why some people decided to not come to the rally.
Right.
Some members decided not to come to the rally.
Right. And not just this year, in any given year.
One of the TAXITV episodes. Right. You just happened to mention it because you were talking about it at the end of the show. I don't remember which show
it was. The one where I said the people that live in LA and don't get off their couch are big fat losers.
Right. That was one of those. So I thought that was kind of a good topic to elaborate on because you've probably heard a lot of excuses why people don't come. And I certainly know firsthand a lot of reasons why you should. And so I thought that would be a good topic to talk about. Now, hopefully we're not just preaching to the choir with the group of the regular happy hour people, because I'm sure most of them are real excited to come this year. I know I am.
Do you have the chat room open, Greg, or the video, the YouTube, or anything? People are telling me they're getting
an echo.
Yeah, I think it was the fact that I was listening to you through speakers, so I just went headphones and they said echo got better. So we're good. All right. Sorry.
All right. Let me I can crank down my volume a little bit. I am going live on speakers. If that's still a problem or no?
No, they said it's fixed. I think it was my speakers leaking into my $79 microphone. Anyway.
Nice.
All right. So lay it on us.
So what we're doing then is we're going to talk about why, if there's a reason why you shouldn't come, why that's not a good reason.
Okay. I do want to exclude for health reasons and financial reasons.
Well, of course.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, if it's going to be, obviously it's going to be compromising your health or somebody else's. I mean, don't go anywhere. Stay home. Don't get us sick. That's not cool. But if you've got any trepidation, like I've heard people say that they're shy, and they don't know how or they can't deal with groups of people and being able to talk with them or network with them. First of all, it's one of the things that if you want to be successful, you kind of have to get over. Like, you need to become more social and network with your peers and with others that you can work with, because that's just going to lead to a whole lot more success. And I know for me, it was definitely an issue at the very beginning, like the first rally I came to. Probably not unlike most.
A very verbal guy. You can hang and talk to anybody.
I can. But it's maybe not my favorite thing to do.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, it's not. I'm much better here in the silence and the aloneness and the sanctity of the studio, where I can do what I want and I don't have to talk to anyone. But so it was, and especially when you go to the rally and there's 2,000 plus people, that's definitely an intimidating thing at first. You don't know if you can talk to anybody. You don't know if you can, if you fit in, but it's absolutely imperative to do it. And you pretty quickly come to realize that so many people are so inviting. I mean, it's like a family atmosphere, and you pretty much could just walk up to anybody and start talking, say hi, introduce yourself, and say, who you are, what you do, and you're there, or talk about something else.
You know what? There's a reason that the registration line lasts as long as it does. Mm-hmm. We let it get up to like 800 people that first night. That's enough people to fill the zigzag line. We call it the zigzag line room or Disneyland room. That's what it is. And wow, there must be a fire somewhere in Southern California. I keep hearing like water dropping planes flying over. Anyway, so many relationships and deals have been signed and placements have eventually happened as a result of the registration line. Because even if you're shy, you're standing there with a person or two in front of you, a person or two behind you, and pretty soon it's like, hey, I'm going to get a beer. Anybody else want a beer? Conversations happen even for the people who are very, very shy, and they end up becoming best friends with their line buddies. So that's kind of cool.
Absolutely. I really don't know anybody who doesn't have that kind of a story with who they stood in line with.
Yeah.
And most of the time that comes from the very first time you stood in that line, because you had no idea what to expect. Now, if you go and then you come back, you've got a better idea what to expect and what that's like. But when you show up there for the first time and you see this long line, and and as you've mentioned before, so many people are still arriving for the first time. So when you get in that line, you're probably going to be there with somebody else who's there for the first time too. So you're in the same boat,
Yep.
and you have that in common. So start talking, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's always going to lead to something positive.
Even if you're not the type of person who would normally initiate a conversation, the people standing on either side of you will. They're going to say, "Hey, man, where are you from? What kind of music do you do? Tell me about your studio." And those are all topics people are comfortable talking about. And before you know it, I get people to come up and give me a hug on Thursday night after they spent 3 hours standing in the registration line. And they come up and hug me and say, "Thank you so much for putting this on. I'm having a blast." It's like, how could you be having a blast already? All you've done is register. I know, but the people in line are awesome. We get that every year.
That's right. And you can't stand there for hours in silence anyway. I mean, it's not possible. It doesn't matter what your personality is.
Yeah, you could. Nowadays, people can. Everybody just stares at their phone.
What'd you say, Michael? I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess, but I don't think so. Nah, the service in the lobby is not that great at the Westin.
That's true. Well, they're remodeling, and hopefully they fix the Wi-Fi. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. That's why the rooms should be fully remodeled by the time we get there in November. I got to see a sample of one. They got rid of the red velvet curtains, and they went for more like a dusky blue thing this time. It looks nice.
As long as they keep those beds, or I mean, they can get new ones, but yeah, I sleep better in that hotel than even in my own house.
Well, you should crash at our place. One year they had a general manager who really liked me. He was my favorite GM forever. At the Westin, and he liked me enough that he called me up and said, "We're ordering like 100 new mattresses for the rooms. Do you want one for you?" And I said, "Yeah. How much are they?" And like retail, they were well over $1,000. He said, like $107. Okay, sign me up. I've still got that mattress because it's lasted this long, and it's so comfortable. Yeah.
Yeah, they're awesome. I couldn't. But that also goes back to the first year. That's what I look forward to, is getting a good night's sleep in the room. Of course, half of it is you kind of pass out because you expend so much energy throughout the day.
Yeah, it's hard lifting that beer to your face all night.
Oh, it sure is. It sure is. No, you definitely have to pace yourself, though. I mean, you can get over juiced on Friday, and by Sunday you're dragging. You gotta pace yourself because it's a lot of information. There's a lot of things going on. There's a lot of people. There's a lot of different events, and so you gotta pace yourself because it's morning till midnight or later sometimes.
Yeah.
You never know. I mean, I'm too old for midnight now, personally.
Oh, there's a country song title, Too Old for Midnight.
Too old for midnight. I'm gonna write that down. That's not bad. I just said that.
And people congregate on the helipad on the roof of the building, and just like in hallways, you see people jamming. It's so hard. I was glad that you said, "Yeah, I'd like to do this," because it's just so hard for somebody to understand until they get there. Nobody ever comes up to me and says, "I feel like you talked me into it and I'm really pissed off because it's not living up to the hype." Instead, they come up to me and go, "This exceeds everything you said about it." So I'm a little concerned this year that the economy is going to make it difficult for people to come. And I don't want anybody to spend their last dime to come to this thing. But if it ain't your last dime, think about your priorities, because a new guitar is not going to get your music into a TV show. A new keyboard is not going to get your music into a TV show. Oh, crap. I just pissed off some sponsors, didn't I?
Probably.
Probably. Well, they're not watching. Anyway, the road rally, people always call it life-changing. And we didn't put that phrase in their mouths. They came up with it on their own because they met a library owner, in the restroom, at the restaurant, grabbing a beer at the bar when they came off stage and walked out of the ballroom, whatever the circumstance, they meet people, and the panelists are genuinely nice. They're like not standoffish and they don't walk around with their nose in the air like I'm from the industry and you're just a little peon. None of that. So
No, I've never run into anybody that acts that way. I mean, and I have to admit that I may not have ever come if I still lived in Philadelphia.
wow.
That may be the truth. Because I was never, a big person for traveling, and that's about the full 3,000 miles across the whole country. And I know that lots of people come from much farther away than that. But I was never big on traveling, but my joining kind of coincided with my moving to Albuquerque, which is 2,000 of the 3,000 miles or so
Yeah.
across the whole country. And so I only had to go 1,000 miles, and the plane ride's about an hour and a half or so to LAX from here. And so that's what kind of tipped me over the edge. It was like, okay, well, it's not really that far. It's not really that much time. I'm going to go and I'm going to see what it's all about. And luckily I made that decision because I couldn't possibly go back on that now. It's really important to go. I really hope every member comes because it's really important. And I know that, like you said, the cost is it can be a thing. It does depend on where you're coming from. It definitely can be a thing, but I don't know if you can go. I don't know if you can show up in LA and stay in a hotel for that price for any event,
Right.
let alone for this event. I mean, that's an unbelievable price on the rooms, and you gotta look at it as an investment in
Yeah.
your full, in the overall process. You're
A lot
right.
of
It's like,
musicians don't see it as their career as their own small business. But man, if you were opening up a pushcart hot dog stand, you still have to buy the stand and the hot dogs and the ketchup and mustard and the buns and all. Every business has a startup cost, and the Road Rally has a proven track record of people walking out of there with relationships that bear fruit in the form of signings and placements and checks.
absolutely. I know I did, and continue to do so. I mean, even this is last year. And when you mention people from like the Los Angeles area who don't come, I really don't get that. That's amazing.
Have you driven on the 405?
I mean, I have. Oh, you mean park on the 405?
Right, exactly.
Yeah, sure I have. I mean, it's not great. it's not good, and I think LA's public transportation doesn't really exist, or nobody really wants to get involved with it. So I understand that, but still, it's like you
Yeah.
still got to do it. I mean, that's just time. I mean, that really doesn't make sense to me. Okay, so get up an extra hour earlier and
Yeah.
from wherever you're coming from, which I know wherever you are, it's going to take an hour to get there. Like, it probably
It-
doesn't matter. Like even if you're
But-
like next door. And,
Who could say
still
no to like what everybody says can be and often is a life-changing experience? Because it's just too much hassle to get in my car and drive 45 minutes or an hour to get there. I think those people don't really want to be in the real music industry. They want to live a fantasy life of, I'm good enough. I can't believe nobody signed me, versus I'm going to bite the bullet. I'm going to go to this thing. I'm going to learn everything I possibly can. I'm going to meet the right people. And I'm going to spend the next year of my life really hunkering down and doing it right this time. You can live the dream. You're such a great example of that. It's just a change of approach.
Oh, it definitely is. Like I know that even the first and second year when I came to the rally, I didn't. I'm trying to think about specifics about people that I met and stuff. And I don't think I made any connections where it led to deals like that soon. But it changed the whole approach that I had to the process. Like just coming and seeing like-minded people. That's number one. Number two is all the learning that's going on there. I mean, I know what you cover so much on TAXITV every week, but going there and being able to ask a lot of those people specific questions, and they've got more tailored material to talk about, and
the one-to-one feedback from the mentors. I mean, just all of it.
That's amazing. I mean, okay. So let me tell that story about the one-to-one feedback. Okay. So my first year, I didn't really know what to do, and I'm sure that's what most people are.
As far as choosing the right mentor, or didn't know what to do.
Yeah, as far as choosing the right mentor.
Okay.
And I looked out, I did look over the list of everybody who was available ahead of time and their bio and what they do. And I got up to the front. I'm looking at who's still available. And so I decided that the first thing that I wanted to confirm to myself was that the music that I do sounds good. Mm-hmm. I wasn't overly concerned with the composition or anything like that. Like, I wanted to know, did it sound good?
You mean audio-wise?
Right, exactly. Okay. So I chose Fett as my one-to-one mentor. And he listened to, while we were there, he listened to something that I played for him. And he definitely gave me some information about what I should do better. And he also validated that I was doing a good job as far as being able to sound good. And so that was kind of like the first affirmation that put me on the path. Now, he personally is unbelievable. I hope that everybody meets him and talks to him every year, because he's a fantastic guy. I mean, he said, if you send me some more stuff, I'll listen to it and let you know. So I was like completely out of my mind and send him like 40 tracks.
Oh no.
And so
Greg
listened to, I know. He listened to every one of them. He gave me feedback on every one of them. Yeah. So
let's give out his email address right now so everybody in the chat room can send him 40 things.
Please don't send him 40 things.
Yeah, I actually like Fett. I wouldn't do that to him.
No. That was crazy. It was over the top, but it validated and affirmed for me that I was able to get things to sound good. And so then the second year that I came, whatever year that was, the next thing that I was kind of then started to get concerned about was, well, can I actually write the right music for these listings? Because that's when I kind of started to listen to the listings and follow the examples and all that stuff. So then I thought, okay,
before you were submitting square pegs to round holes, like whatever you had in your stash, versus creating for the listings.
Exactly. Okay. Exactly. So then when I started that, when I started to do it the right way, or at least I thought the right way was, then I thought, okay, well, am I really doing this the right way? And I had started to get a couple of forwards that second year. But it really wasn't until after that, the second rally that I went to, that it really started to pick up. And so, so my second mentor was, oh my gosh, who was my second mentor? I remember my third one, but who's my second one? Oh my goodness. See, now I've ruined the story by not remembering the details.
It's all right. We can edit it out in post.
Oh, right. Just pretend like insert name here.
Right.
No, I know who it is. It's oh my gosh.
Describe what the person does. I can probably figure it out from there.
They were a composer of instrumental music. And,
Peter Neff?
No, it wasn't Peter. Darn. Oh, it was Dean. Oh my God.
Dean Crepane, who happens to be in the chat room?
Yes.
Wow, great mentor.
Oh my goodness. See, now I'm an idiot. Now I look like a fool.
Not as far as you know.
It was Dean. It was Dean. And then I had subsequently sat in his class about demystifying the cue too. And so Dean listened to one of the tracks I played for him, and kind of went over the typical composer stuff, like the arc and the ABA stuff and the build and the stinger endings and all that kind of jazz. And so I kind of got affirmed from him that I was on the right path of being able to write the music correctly. And so then that subsequent year, I started to get more and more forwards until I, finally signed a couple of deals, like after the second rally, leading into going to the third one. So at the third rally, the mentor that I chose, and don't laugh, it was your friend and mine, Matt Vander Boegh, because what I wanted to really get from him was, can I scale like him, or not like him? Nobody could scale like him, but scale at the point where it's necessary to be successful.
Right.
So we talked a lot about that, and being able to go from what I had done, which like maybe 50 tracks in a year, to 200, and now I have I did number 695 today, so I'm really close to number 700, maybe by the end of next week.
Most people who haven't been to a rally, who don't watch TAXITV, who haven't read Dean's book or Barden's book, they don't know that it actually is completely doable and realistic. It takes a minute to ramp up to that level of proficiency, but much different than making music for records and such, because you tend to use a lot of the same sounds for the same genres. So if you're doing, a dramedy cue today, half of the sounds or more that you use today can be used in another dramedy cue that's in a different key with maybe, it's got a minor seventh because it's a little different mood for the cue, whatever. But the kick drum, the bass, whatever is in that dramedy cue can largely remain the same. Not the case in making records so much. So for the people who happen to be watching this episode think, I will never get up to doing, a cue a day, you absolutely will.
No, you definitely can. I was one of those. Believe me, when I set out, the first goal was to do 50 in a year, which is like about one a week. I thought that was insane. Like, how am I going to possibly do that? But I did do it, and then I started to learn along the way the efficiencies and the ways to do it, to be more efficient and to get more done, and what details to pay attention to and what details to kind of repeat over and over again, so that you're not spending a lot of time on them, like you mentioned. I set up all templates with reverbs and delays and faders and sends, and that would be something that would take you half an hour. I never do it. It's already there. I start there. So that works out. So those are my three mentors, which basically shape the whole trajectory that
you chose.
Well, I guess so. But it was, like I said, I really thought that I wanted to make sure I sounded good, and then I wanted to make sure that I could write the music, and then I wanted to make sure that I could write enough music.
Yeah.
And so it just kind of worked out that way. And so, and all people are, of course, phenomenal people. And you don't even, heck, if you don't get them as a one-to-one and you run into them in the bar area, they'll be glad to talk to you.
Might cost you a beer, but, so what? Cheap thrill. Not that I'm insinuating any of those.
If it's Vander Boegh, it might cost you a little bit of your hearing, because he's bold.
I can't wait to see Vander Boegh this year. He and I were exchanging emails a few days ago, and I just so want to. He's really anything that Matt Vander Boegh does. For those of you who may not know, he's a very successful taxi member that has a hugely outgoing personality. Used to teach communications at Boise State, and said, when I start making more money, or equal to or greater than amount of money from composing, then I'm going to quit my job as a college professor. And he did. And he did it out of like a tool shed that you would put a riding lawnmower in. He put down some sort of slab, a real floor in the thing, put a what do you call it, mini split air conditioner in there. Yeah. And there you go. Yeah.
I have one there, yeah.
And I mean, he didn't know anything. I've told the story 1,000 times. It's absolutely true. He literally turned on Pro Tools, looked at the splash screen, and goes, okay, now what? and didn't even have a, like a one octave MIDI keyboard. He was using his ASCII keyboard to play notes. I'm not exaggerating this. And I'm sure it was tough going in the beginning. And I'm sure he made some material that, looking back on now, he would think was, a fool's errand, maybe. But he figured it out. He's not like a composer at all. He's not, somebody who's like, studied music in college, took a lot of music theory classes. He's just a guy who said, I'm going to take this seriously, put my nose to the grindstone, figure out what the heck they want and how the people who are giving it to them are putting it together, and I'm going to do that. And he did. And now look at him. Wow.
Yeah. And that's definitely something that you can glean from a lot of people at the rally, because it's difficult to see that, or it's difficult to imagine that in action, and it's almost impossible to see it in action from the privacy of your own home.
Yeah.
You can imagine it, but when you really walk among everybody, and you hear the stories, and nobody, and like we've mentioned so many times, you've mentioned so many times, it's like nobody, how do I say it? We used to say in my neighborhood, nobody like big times you, like,
right.
They can't talk to you because you're just, well, you're just a member, and I'm me, whoever me is, I mean, nobody does that. Like, literally no one.
Right. In the history of
everyone that's in the building.
Yeah. In the entire history of the Road Rally, we've done 26. I think we're heading into our 27th. Never once has anybody ever come up to me or sent me an email or a text or whatever after the fact and said, I can't believe it. I tried to approach so-and-so and he was such a jerk to me. Nobody ever says that. Instead, they say things like, I never thought it would be possible to talk to somebody who's the president of a music library. And then I had lunch with him the next day. It's like, yeah, that stuff actually really happens at the Road Rally.
Yep. And it's always just pure. It can easily be pure happenstance. Like, you just don't know. Things just happen. I remember this past year, I think it was Sunday, and had no plan for lunch, and so I just ran down to the Subway down the street to get a sandwich, which, again, as a Philadelphian, that's a terrible thing for me to admit openly. But I think at that point I had already had about 5 meals in the restaurant, so I was like, I need to have a change of some sort.
Yeah.
But so I'm going down the street, and I saw also on the way to the Subway, Robin Frederick, who was speaking to someone else. And so I passed her and I just said hi. I really hadn't met her before, but I just said hi, and I continued on down to the Subway. And a minute later, she walked in as well. So she was on her way there too, but someone had stopped her and she was speaking to them. So, and there were, maybe this was not typical, but there were maybe just 1 or 2 other customers at the time in the Subway. So it was pretty much empty. So we were in line together, and I introduced myself. We started talking about what sandwiches we were going to have, and we sat down and had the sandwiches together. We started talking about the Beatles documentary on Disney Plus, and the Bee Gees one on HBO, and we really hit it off. And she's a wonderful person, as you know, one of your favorite people of all time. And so after the rally, I just sent her an email just to say it was nice talking to you and having lunch, and I'll see you next year. And she replied back and said, well, I've been working with this singer and this songwriter, and I think they would be good to work with you too. So she sent me all their information. And so now I've done songs with all of those people. We got them signed in a bunch of different ways.
Wow.
And those are people I would have never met if it weren't for her. If it weren't for just we were going in the Subway at the same time.
So you've actually got more of a Subway story than Jared Fogle had.
Well, his story continued on after,
I
and
actually
we probably
watched.
don't want to go into that.
No, there's actually a documentary about it, a 3-part documentary that's on like Apple Plus or something, and I watched it last night. It was pretty riveting, really heartbreaking and scary for the kids, obviously. But yeah, there's Jared from Subway.
Right.
Okay, well now you can
Here's what I'll
replace
do.
him.
I'll say the sandwich shop down the street, and then in post you can take that and paste it over every time I said Subway earlier in what I said.
Yeah, there you go. Um, and I found out something interesting. The way Jared lost all the weight on the Subway diet was he got like a 6-inch turkey sandwich with not a whole lot on it for lunch, and for dinner he did the veggie deluxe large size, and he ate the same thing every day for 6 months or something and dropped like 245 pounds. Wow. Anyway, I don't want
I
to.
couldn't eat the same thing every day, whether it was good or bad for me. I just don't have that in me. Like I could eat a few cheeseburgers, but I couldn't eat it every day. So
I tend to do that. I do eat the same like 5 microwavable meals I get from Trader Joe's. I pride myself on the fact that I probably average about $5 per day on lunch. I mean, now you go to McDonald's and a burger, fries, and a Coke is $13 at McDonald's. That's insane. Anyway, I do tend to eat the same thing for lunches most days, which is information that nobody probably needed. Um, I want
yeah,
to.
but this is less formal. I mean, this is
Yeah.
a happy hour. We could talk about anything.
Yeah, in a little bit, let's open it up and do a little Q&A with the crowd. But you're so right about so many members have gone to the road rally that were probably a year or two out from getting their first thing signed, but they played bassoon, or they're a great vocalist, or they play accordion, or they're a great flamenco guitar player, Andre Stepanian. Whatever it is that is their superpower, it seems like people bump into somebody that needs a great flamenco guitar player, and because they want to submit something and they need that overdub. And so Andre, for instance, might end up working with somebody that they met at the rally, and 2 months later that same person calls up and says, do you only do flamenco, or could you also do this style? Oh yeah, I can do that style. Pretty soon they have a working relationship, and now a guy like Andre is in several libraries because he met those libraries through the other member that already had entree. This is the part that
Absolutely.
people don't believe is going to happen for them. But everything you're saying attests to the fact that you can be pretty shy, you can be socially uncomfortable. I didn't say awkward, uncomfortable, because I'd be nice to you. And still, I mean, it just stuff happens. It's like almost out of your control in a good way. You don't have to have a plan or scheme or like, I'm going to get to the restaurant early and see which table Dean Crepane is sitting at. I just said that because I see he's saying, bye, everybody, going to have dinner. Probably chilly, knowing Dean.
See you, Dean.
The famous Dean K. Chili. Anyway, everything.
You don't need a plan. I mean, that's the thing you don't need. I know I didn't have any, and I know that I still came away learning things and meeting people with no plan. So you don't need one. The only thing you want to be is just open to speak to everybody if you can. That's
It's
all.
amazing how
That's the
people
plan.
will let their imaginations run wild to give themselves a bunch of, well, this bad thing could happen or this negative thing could happen. It's almost like they're building up a wall around themselves to talk themselves out of going to the rally just because they have this little bit of fear of meeting new people, when actually it's a life-changing event. It's not like, wow, I had a good time, but you will. You'll have a great time. And none of this is hype. I mean, and I'm sure it doesn't happen for every single person, but it happens for so many that you kind of think that it does happen for everybody, because we hear these stories
Yeah.
over and over and over. Well,
Yeah. I think that, unfortunately, some people might have a little bit of fear of success, you know?
Or-
so you kind of, you block stuff out that might help you succeed, and then you have an excuse to not succeed. But that's not a good one. I hope many members get past that and come this year, because it'll be great.
It's a leap of faith that will not break your heart. It's a little bit like dating. People who are older and single, friends of mine I'm speaking about now, should I mention their name? No, I don't think I will. But people that I know, have known for like decades, that are single, they're still single because they are fearful of getting hurt in a relationship, and they use that fear to build a brick wall that's constantly one more brick, another brick higher, till they get to the point where they're so comfortable having the wall protecting them that they're missing out on parts of life that they might really enjoy. I understand it, and I'm not condemning anybody for it, and I'm certainly not a psychologist, nor am I a marriage counselor, just in case you thought that I did that too. But it's pretty obvious to see when you get to know somebody really well, and you can see it's like you're doing this to yourself. But I understand where it comes from, because a little bit of fear goes a long way. So I'm going to pull back the curtain and reveal what I think might possibly be one of the most unique, informative, and jaw-dropping panels, a session that I'm going to do at the Road Rally. It's not anybody famous in the typical sense of the word, but about 2 or 3 months ago, I got a really nice email, probably a couple hundred words, from somebody that had seen me whining about somebody being a jerk to Taxi on YouTube or something. And he said, man, I just want you to know there are those of us out there who really appreciate what you do, what the staff does, what Taxi stands for, the integrity, the hard work, the blah, blah, blah. And it was so nicely written and so from the heart that I thought, I'm going to call this guy and say thank you. And I picked up the phone, realized he lived in Sherman Oaks, which is 20 minutes from our office. I love this guy on the phone. We instantly it's like you and I met, and we felt like, we were old college roommates or something. The relationship was very easy and comfortable from the get-go. Same thing with him. Although he makes both you and I look like we're not verbose in the least. This guy, in the best possible way, it's just like a font of interesting stuff about anything. It's like you don't want to. He and I've gone out to dinner now several times. At the end of the night, you don't want to be over. It's like a really good first date. Anyway, so on our first date, when we went out to dinner, I found out that he is a legitimate executive producer of TV shows. Many of them are true crime type TV shows. He and his wife are partners in the company. Started it right out of college with one handheld 16 millimeter film camera. I think it was 16 millimeter film. And they've grown it into a company that at any point in time might have several series on the air. And they also do documentaries, a couple that I've actually seen in my lifetime. So it's like, oh, cool. I get to have dinner with the guy that did that particular documentary, which I really enjoyed. Loved him at dinner and said, dude, I have to find a way to put you on stage at the Road Rally, not only because we could get the executive producer's perspective, but he happens to be a musician and a composer. So he composes some of his own cues for his own shows, and also uses a couple of libraries when he either doesn't have time or doesn't feel like he's the right person to create a certain genre or whatever. The way he described on 2 occasions to me how he uses his cues and how he thinks through how he's going to break out his stems, it was jaw-dropping to me. I'm a little jaded. I've been around the industry for a long time. I know a lot of people. I've gotten a lot of input handed to me on a silver platter over many years, and I think I'm pretty well informed until I met this guy, and I went, I've never heard that before. Our members need to know that. Would you talk about that on stage at the rally? And it's so funny because he's very outgoing. And he's like, I don't know. I'm a little nervous. I think he's got a little stage fright or something, which I can't imagine. When you meet him, you'll be like, there's no possible way this guy could have stage fright. He's so incredibly outgoing. But I am telling you that what he told me I had never heard in 50 years of being in the music business and probably 20 years of being around sync experts at every level. The first thing he said to me that got my attention, and I'm not even going to try and repeat other stuff that he said because I'll just screw it up, but one thing he said was, when I do stems, I will take pads, just literally a single keyboard pad on a single track, maybe a stereo track, and I'm thinking as I'm building this track, I'm probably going to pull that pad out later as a stem and use it to transition from one scene to another. So there's this feeling of continuity, even though the beat is changing. And I'm not talking about the beat of the music, but in video land, they call, like, a scene is everything the Kardashians talk about in the kitchen. A beat is when it goes from Kim saying, has anybody seen my car keys, to her current husband saying something like, you lose your keys all the time, and then her sister walks in the room. That's another beat. So it's not a scene change, but it's a change within the scene. So he's thinking that stuff through as he's building his cues. And I said, well, yeah, but you know what the picture is and what the story is. You have that luxury. And he went on to further explain, it's like, no, but you don't have to be me. You don't have to know what I know about my own shows to do this. So he's going to explain all that. And I am absolutely willing to bet that everybody who's in the ballroom to hear what he has to say is going to be 10, 20, 30% better equipped to beat the competition over time because of this mindset and these tricks, for lack of a better word, that I believe that he's going to share with everybody. I think everybody in that ballroom is going to be going, holy crap. It's so obvious when you say it out loud, but I never would have thought of that on my own. And I think he might, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I think at one point he said, it's like everybody who makes library music, we're all kind of repeating what everybody else has done to a large extent. Maybe putting a little salt on mine where you put pepper on yours, that sort of thing. But, dramedy cue is a dramedy cue is a dramedy cue to an extent. I think people are going to be absolutely blown away by this. I hope I'm not overhyping it. But when we went out for our third dinner, I literally just went, I'm so convinced that this is going to be awesome. So I'm going to put him on stage immediately after our keynote. And the keynote is the president of APM, which is the largest production music library on the planet. And he and I have known each other for a lot of years. We're not like besties, but, got him on phone first try and said, I want you to be my keynote. And I want to talk about state of the industry today, state of the industry in the future. Obviously, AI is going to be part of that conversation. Copyright law, all that stuff. He's a really good, warm guy that everybody who works for him and most everybody, I think, who's in his vast library has a lot of respect for the guy. So he's also, by the way, founding member and chairman of the board of the PMA, Production Music Association, which a lot of production music libraries belong to. So I could tell you what, between 9 a.m. and 12:30, whenever we break for lunch on that Friday morning at the Road Rally, just those two things alone would be enough to get my butt on a plane. By the way, I'm not ever going to be able to take the mystery guy, the executive TV producer guy. I won't be able to videotape that and put it out for our members. I probably won't even be able to transcribe it and put it in the newsletter because there's going to be a lot of inside stuff that can be said in a ballroom in an ephemeral situation where he said it and that's it. There's no record of it. He's got to get clearance. Oh, and the other thing is he's actually going to take some TAXI member cues and try them against picture from one or two scenes from his shows that he's done. So we're going to be running listings. The music won't end up being in the shows because we've got to use shows that have already aired for legal reasons to get the permission to use them. And we can't put something in the ballroom in front of 1,000 people that's going to air a month from now or 6 months from now. The networks would never go for that. But a few lucky Taxi members are going to have their music auditioned in the ballroom. And he's not going to judge them on this is a good cue or a great cue or a bad cue. Nothing like that. He's going to be judging them. How does this help move my scene along? How does it amplify the emotion? That kind of stuff. So I think it's in that section of what he's going to do is going to be like what Laurel Ostrander did twice before at the rally, but having somebody who is the executive producer of the show, sometimes editor of his own episodes, oftentimes director of his own episodes, who is also one of you guys and a composer. I can't imagine we're not going to learn a ton from this guy. So I'm very excited about it. Anyway.
Sounds awesome.
Yeah, I'm so excited. And I've got in my date, it's not technically a day runner, in my paper calendar book because I don't always, my phone will go ding, ding. You've got an appointment at 2:30 with the doctor, and I'm in the middle of a conversation. I don't hear the ding, ding, and I miss the doctor appointment. So I have a to-do list on a calendar every day, and I look at it when I get up before I leave the house. Like, okay, that's in my brain. So on my list of things, after you and I finish this, is I am calling... Where is it? It's on my phone. Somebody texted me his number. No, somebody texted me. Oops. I'm calling Dan Nigro, the guy who co-wrote and produced Olivia Rodrigo's massive hit in 2022, right, which was Driver's License.
Driver's License.
Yeah, I've seen him interviewed on YouTube, and I think he'd make a great, like I did with Ken Collay, doing like end of the day, turn down the lights, grab some popcorn, and let's pick that song apart track by track. I'm going to see if he can bring the demo, talk about, how much of it she'd written before she walked in, how he contributed, what the process was like, and then do some track by track analysis. So hopefully I can get him. One of his engineers is somebody that I know pretty well, that I see at a lot of family birthday parties and stuff. So with any luck, he'll be available. And I every year I say, I'm going to make this the best rally ever. This is the one not to miss. By the way, 2024, the hotel room rates are going sky high. They will still be cheaper than other hotels, but just the economy and the cost of labor and the cost of food, all that stuff. It's a little more expensive this year, 2024. I got the contract and went, oh my God. I actually hired a professional hotel meeting planner negotiator that I know really, really well, and she's going to negotiate a better deal for you guys.
Nice.
Yeah. Anyway,
well, I have heard that airline tickets have been going down a little bit recently, over a year ago. So it might not be that might be a little bit of a not such a bad hit for this fall.
Especially again, if you a larger percentage of our members live in California than any other state. We don't know why that is. It's not like proximity to Taxi's headquarters matters. Maybe we just have a more denser population of musicians here. Definitely New York, California, Texas, Florida, New Jersey and Illinois, and probably Pennsylvania are probably our bigger states because they're more densely populated. But Californians who live here, and all they have to do is drive across town. I mean, I've had people from El Segundo, which is literally 7 minutes from the Rally Hotel, that have gone, I gotta go. I live in El Segundo. It's like, I want to bop them on the head, go, you live 7 minutes away and you didn't come? I can't believe this. But whatever, you can't fix anything or everything. No. So anything else you want to add, or should we just jump into some Q&A and talk to our buddies?
Sure, questions are good.
All right. So yeah, anybody this the back half or the last half hour. Let's do a little Q&A like we used to do during the Quarantinis. First of all, are you guys excited about the rally? I hope so. Or is it too far in advance? Yeah, 90 days out. Like, well, I'm going to get excited. I'm already losing. So I woke up at 5:30 in the morning yesterday morning. First thing in my head was the rally. It gets that way every year. So, yeah, if I have to get up early, you guys better love it, damn it.
That's true. I was excited for this year, probably after I got home from last year.
Yeah.
So I kind of hold on to it all year long, just waiting.
It's so fun. Even if we did nothing constructive, just seeing all of us being together, that did make last year pretty special, I got to say. Seeing people that we hadn't seen in a couple of years.
Absolutely, yes. That was true. I mean, there was a lot of them I was still like corresponding with or doing Zooms and emails and stuff, but getting back and seeing everybody after I guess it was 3 years, because it was 2019.
It was the last in person.
2022. Yeah.
Right. So, we did a virtual, our first virtual in 2020, second virtual in 2021. And
Right.
it was 3 years. Wow.
That was 3 years, and that was a long time. That was quite a delay.
Yeah. Question from Marion. May not make it this year. Health issues. I'm sorry to hear that, Marion. God, I can't wait to meet you in person. But are there any musical instruments we should bring that won't otherwise be available? I mean, usually I don't have confirmation on if PRS will be there this year with guitars for us to use. They have for the last couple of live rallies. Let's see, a lot of people, I wouldn't say a majority, but there are enough people that bring their own acoustic guitars that if if your name got drawn out of the hat to get up and perform a song at the open mic, you'll know 3 people before you go up there. So you could walk up to people in the room that have an acoustic and say, can I please borrow your guitar for one song? And I don't think anybody has ever said no to that request. There are some electric guitars floating around. Ukuleles are pretty often seen at the rally. I've never seen a bagpipe or a bassoon at a rally, so bring those if you have them. Andre's bringing his flamenco guitar. It's with him at all times.
Nice.
Ken Messford has a question. Whoops. Oh, no. Michael, have you spent any time with Logic? And I must ask about Gopher updates. I have spent, and I also have a question from Andre, so I'll go back to that one in a moment. I have spent very little time with Logic, honestly. I'm just so busy. Literally, I got on a 14 or 15-hour plane flight a few months ago and swore I was going to play with Logic all the way to my destination. Never made it out of my backpack. I did spend one 6-hour Saturday with it. I kept hearing about this reverb plugin, relatively inexpensive. I want to say it was like $49 from a relatively new company called Baby Audio. And the program or the plugin is called Crystalline. And I went and watched a bunch of reviews and listened with my good headphones on to some A/B tests. And I think, for $49, I mean, the reverbs that come stock in Logic are pretty darn good anyway. Honestly, I could make a real live record with those. Pretty much with all the plugins that are in Logic are that good. But Crystalline just sounded... I had live chambers in my studio in Fort Lauderdale, and reverb doesn't get any more rich sounding than that. And when I worked in New York, in the control room I spent most of the time in, I had the plates that belonged to Phil Spector. And after Phil Spector, they were on all the, the River Deep Mountain, all the big Phil Spector records. Those plates were actually on those records. Then Phil Ramone, who did a lot of Billy Joel and Paul Simon, bought them. He was probably a top 3 producer for the years that I was most active. He bought them, and then that studio went out of business, and I bought those plates and had them in my room in New York. So I've been very spoiled with reverb, and a lot of the digital reverbs I hear, I'm impressed by how flexible they are. all the neat tricks you can do with them, but they're still just missing that glossy sound, that special thing. It's hard to even explain it. Anyway, when I heard Crystalline, I went for $49. I hear it with this. So I downloaded it and played with it for 6 hours on a Saturday. And I got to tell you, man, all I wanted to do, I was like ready to like retire from Taxi and go back to the studio and just make records again. I loved it. So there's your answer about if I'm using Logic. And I'm actually talking to the CEO of the company that builds Crystalline on Friday at noon. So about 48 hours from now, he and I are going to hang out and have a little chat. Hopefully they will come to the Road Rally.
Cool.
Yeah, go check out Crystalline by Baby Audio.
I have all their stuff. I bought the full every plugin from them.
And do you love them all as much as I love Crystalline?
Oh yeah, I use them on everything, every track.
Wow, that's saying something. I consider you to have a discerning ear.
I use they've got one of the plugins is called Smooth Operator. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like a simplified dynamic EQ. It is really great. I made myself a preset that's called Make Room for Vocals, and so it's got like a dynamic dip around, like I kind of shift it around, depends, but like around 500 to 700 hertz.
Yeah.
Where and so that you can kind of make sure that dialogue is going to be in there. If someone was singing, if it's for singing, I would make it a little higher, because you'd be singing higher in pitch. But when people are speaking, it's more low. And it just ducks stuff out of the way real nicely. So I use that all the time. I use Crystalline all the time, Spaced Out all the time. They're really
Does
good.
Spaced Out sound as good as Crystalline does?
It's different. It's delay then reverb, in that order, and so it kind of relies a little bit more on the delay, but and I kind of use it a little bit more on the delay because you can it's got like a grid where you can pick like which where you want the delays, so you can make all these untimely delays. So it's pretty neat, and then you can feed that into the reverb that comes next.
Their user interface is quite unique. It took me a minute. Thank God I'd watched the demonstrations of Crystalline, because you look at it and go, ooh, is that going to be hard to figure out? It literally takes like 5 minutes, and you go, wow, this is like some of the smartest user interface work I've ever seen. It's not built for nerds.
And there's like 1,000 presets too, so there's lots of places to start. You don't have to. You're not going at it cold, so there's just plenty of sounds.
Well, cool. I'm glad that you know about them, because they're a young company, and I think that they should be getting a lot of attention. Okay, Andre had a question. If you're choosing to go with USB sticks to present your music, how many would you say is a good amount to have ready? And he's super excited as well. Andre, I don't know that I have the best answer for you, other than to say, be prepared. What you don't want to do is give somebody a USB with 50 things on it. You might want to bust things out and have one USB that's this type of music, another USB that's that type of music, another USB that's got a couple of closely related kinds. Because if you give somebody a USB with a lot of folders on it, they may not make it to the stuff that you had wanted them to hear. But do bring a couple of those compilations with everything. And that's where I was going next. It's the business card with the QR code. I mentioned that a couple episodes again. I think that is probably the best way. USB sticks get wiped and get reused. I'm guilty of that, where I've listened to 30 seconds of something, go, okay, this is just not up to professional standards. I know I'm not going to listen to the rest. Sorry, whoever gave me this, but I'm deleting everything on this, and I'm going to use it for taxi legal work or something down the road. But a QR code, everybody's got room for a business card. And if you do a good job putting the business card together, you will entice them to go, if they did that good on the business card, maybe the music is good as well. They zap it with their phone on the plane while they're flying home. and they go, wow, this guy knows what he's doing. So yeah, hold that up again. Awesome. What does it say? It's kind of hard to read from. Does it say
Oh,
like?
just has my name. Says oh gosh, backwards. Yes,
Right.
my name and composer, and it's got my email address down here on this side and a phone number, but the QR code just goes right to my website, which is written on there too.
Great.
So, and that's yeah, that I found that to be easier. Like I came I brought USB sticks a few years ago, like maybe 18 and 19 when I was there. Um, but this seems to make a whole lot more sense because it just, but and I have to say that now, like my personal goals are a little bit different. Like now more want people to go to my website and listen to music that's like been signed and placed, which is different than when I had a whole bunch of music that wasn't signed and placed. So I have a different goal, but I still think that it still makes more sense because you're just more in control of it, and you can change what's there and that kind of stuff. So it makes more sense, and you can see who's listened to it too. I mean,
You can
depending upon
also
who your
put,
site who you have your site with.
yeah, and put a picture. Yeah, you know what? Bandzoogle, I think, lets you do that, if I'm not
Mm-hmm.
mistaken. And so some people I know have actually put their face in the middle of the QR code. So, or at least on the business card. So people go, oh, I remember that guy. He was super nice. Hung out with him at the bar. Or it could be a girl. I don't mean to be a sexist here. Um, when will the luncheon tickets be available? I don't know the exact date, but we usually wait and I want to say like a month before the rally launches. Um, and you do have to pick them up kind of quickly. We're amazed now that we've done an automated, you can get them on the web versus having to call the office and get them. They go pretty quickly, usually in like a week. Excuse me. The luncheons are going to be, I don't want to quote a number. I'm afraid I might get it wrong. In the past, they've been remarkably cheap for what they were. For those of you who've never been to a Taxi Eat and Greet Luncheon, we have 30 tables of 10 people at each table with an 11th person at each table who is an industry mentor. It could be somebody like Greg, who is what I would call an advanced member that has good stuff to share with his fellow members. The next person could be somebody like Rob Shirelli, or it could be a music library owner. So during the course of your lunch, you will have typically, I think, about 4 or 5 people that will rotate your table for 15 minutes at a time. In the past, the luncheons have been $35, then $37. Every year, when we have to pay the final bill at the West End Hotel, and I say to Angela, whoa, how is it possible that we still owe money? I found out that I've been paying the tip and the taxes for everybody's lunches for 20 years. Like $6,000 a year. I'm not exaggerating this by a penny. I mean, the tax and tip on 600 people works out to like $6,000. But the hotel made the mistake in the contract of saying price inclusive of, and then 3 sentences later, price exclusive of. So I saw inclusive and didn't read any farther. They saw exclusive and sent me a bill. And so that's another reason I'm going down to meet with them. But I can tell you that because of the economy right now and the cost of food is just sky high, as we all very well know, that the lunches are going to be more expensive this year. And you guys are paying for your own tax and tip. I'm sorry. I literally been. Yeah.
It's still something to do, though. It's definitely not something to skip. I mean, you can economize by coming to one of the lunches, but
Right.
you definitely shouldn't skip one.
That's right. Yeah, some people go to 2, and if you can afford to, because they're going to be somewhere around $50, $55 this year, I think. Rather, I want to say last year they were 37 or 42 or something. Whatever they are, I mean, where you couldn't go to a luncheon at a typical convention for like under $100 a plate, and the food is actually pretty good. It's not gourmet, but it's better than your typical hotel chicken, I would venture to say. So yeah, I think the tickets will be available about a month out, maybe sooner. You'll know. We will send out an email to every member. Scrolling up. Yeah, if I don't move the chat for a while and then I go back and just touch it, it goes poof. So I have to scroll backwards to make sure I'm not leaving anything out. Any other questions? Oh, got that one done. Guys are pretty gender neutral. Yeah, I agree. Say, hey guys, you could say that to a group of men and women. You might get canceled anyway, but what the hell? If you're getting canceled for saying guys to a group of men and women, move. Here's a question from Larry Rusev. Sorry, Larry, for butchering your last name. Sounds French. Question, can a QR code be read just as easily on a business card, whether the card is glossy or matte? I would personally go with matte, and here's why. At least not too glossy, because sometimes you want to take out a pen and write additional information on the card. Glossy business cards and Bic pens don't like each other. I know that for a fact from experience. So I would get the slightly matte version. The Matt Vander Boegh.
Yeah, right. I think that's what my cards are. Although I got these cards and then I abandoned them.
Why?
And I got me a link card. And I just touch it to other people's phones and they go right to my website and get my contact information, all that kind of stuff. It's really easier.
So do they do it by scanning a barcode on the card to get to your, it's like a link tree, or it's actually got an RF chip in it?
Yeah, it does NFC inside. So yeah, you can hold it right up to the phone and it reads it directly. It's got a barcode on it. So like if somebody's got a phone from the 90s, it wouldn't work. So then you can do that. But it was much easier because I always had it with me. You know, I don't run out of it. I had it on me all the time. I don't have it right here with me, but it does. I made it look exactly like this, the paper card. It's just got the NFC stuff, and then I can keep track of. When I got back from this year's rally, I had a list of everybody who
nice.
I shared contact information. So it was.
Where
really
did you
easy
get
to
it? What's
just
it
go down the
called?
list and follow up.
What's it called,
So
and where did you get it?
There are the company I got it from is called link.com, linq.com.
Okay.
But I looked at 8 to 12 different companies that make business cards like that, and they're all a little bit different as far as whether they charge you more upfront or whether they have a subscription fee, and how much you can customize what the card does and how much data they collect. Some of them are like more geared toward, salespeople and follow up with a whole bunch of that kind of stuff. And I didn't really need that.
Automatically goes into your Salesforce database.
Yeah. And that, I guess that's useful for some people, but that wasn't what I needed. I really just wanted it to be one business card instead of a box of business cards. And so I'm pretty sure I have a free account with Link. I think they have a subscription plan that does some extra stuff, but I didn't need to do that.
Wow.
And, they let you just create a landing page with your info on it and then a link to your website. And that was good enough for me.
Very cool. I will try and include that like on the rally webpage or in a newsletter that goes out or something, because I think that sounds like a great solution. Let's look for another question. Todd B.
It was really cheap too, by the way.
Great to know.
They have completely unbranded cards. I think it was like $11 or $12. That's basically nothing. That's less than buying paper cards. Wow. I got one with my custom, picture image on it and my name, so I think I paid like 20 something, less than $30.
How many cards do you get for that?
One.
Oh, so you you don't give them the card. You just walk up and go.
Yes.
Boop. You boop a phone?
Exactly.
Oh. for 30
Yeah.
bucks.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah, it's almost a no-brainer. I mean, yeah, like I said, you can anybody interested in doing it. There's several different companies. There's a bunch, and they have different features, so it's worth looking into. But I mean, to me, it was conceptually, it was a no-brainer. Like it was no reason to go with paper cards.
I actually heard a story about this on the news. I am not making this up, but an escort in Las Vegas was walking by and tapping people, like brushing up against men that she saw in the casino and depositing her information on their phones. And then they would get up to the room later with their wife, and their wife would be like, "Why do you have this woman on your phone?" Had to be the same technology. There's
That's it.
a million great
She
applications.
she got her card close enough to their phone.
Yeah. Oh, is that what they call it today?
Nice.
The card getting close enough to the phone.
Yeah.
Let's see. People are still talking about the fact that I paid $6,000 a year for everybody else's tax and tip. Not this year, sucker. I learned my lesson. I mean, really, I like to think of myself as being a fairly nice guy and fairly generous as well, but not that generous that I pay for 600 people's tax and tip. But I did for 20 years. Keith LeBrandt says, now I could take a piece of food from everybody's meal since you're paying for it. Years ago, I had a boss when I was in the audio post business. I had a boss in New York who was very gregarious, larger than life guy, all the big clients. And we had like super big ad agencies and like, you know, it was nothing to have like Sylvester Stallone, Sophia Loren, and Jennifer Aniston come in to do voiceovers any given day of the week. I mean, that was the level that this place was at all the time. So my boss, whose name shall remain nameless because I think of him as kind of a big brother, and I'm always grateful for having a career at his facility. Ad agencies would come in to do a session. They would order lunch from the Palm Restaurant, which is a very expensive steakhouse and lobster place in New York City, because they could do it, and then the studio would write up that lunch from the Palm as a reel of tape on their work order, and then that reel of tape, which let's say cost $150, then gets marked up by the ad agency to their client, which is the company that makes the product or service, by 35%. So they got to eat lunch from the Palm and make the ad agency a profit on it. So nobody ever said boo about it. But that was something that happened at on every commercial shoot. You know, if they didn't have a craft table there, every post-production house, that's just the way things are in New York City in that world. So my boss would know when the food deliveries got there, and he would wait 5 minutes, walk into the control room and walk up and reach into like somebody's tin from the Palm and grab a chunk of lobster tail or a piece of shrimp and walk around and pick from everybody's lunches and then say stuff like, see these $1,100 alligator shoes? You paid for them. Thank you. I mean, he was weird in that way, but a great boss that I loved anyway. So yes, maybe I can, Keith, walk around, take a little piece from everybody's lunch.
Nice.
Yeah. And I'll make sure to wear like chainmail gloves so nobody like chops my hand off with a knife or something. Wow. Scott Alexander bought an SSL 12 interface and really likes it for $4.99 Sweetwater. I'm telling you, I've been looking at all the SSL hardware that's out there that's pretty affordable. I am so tempted. I'm a guy that turns a knob and listens with my ears and go, I don't look at the numbers. I just sweep the EQ till it sounds better and I've solved the problem, and then that's it. And yeah. I find that when I use Logic, I don't like mousing over to stuff and like, So at some point when I know I can really dedicate time to it, I want to buy some of that SSL stuff because I loved my SSL back in the day. I miss it a lot. I love Sweetwater. Everybody loves Sweetwater.
Oh yeah. Gosh, I bought the first thing I ever bought from Sweetwater like 1993, something like that.
Yeah.
The same salesperson still calls me from the same one I've ever done business with for 30 years. So that is a company. If they've got people there that long, it's pretty unbelievable.
Man, all these people chime in the chat room. Yeah, but their customer service is unparalleled.
Yeah, it really is.
And so many people in the chat room are going, yeah, I've got an SSL this, I've got an SSL that. I should show that chat room to SSL and get them to have a booth at the rally. Clearly, we have an audience of people that like their products. Mm-hmm. I see Ken Messford's talking about the SSL USB interfaces, very reasonably priced. Somebody else said they've got one and they loved it. About a year or so ago, I bought the UA Volt 276, and it's got a built-in 1176 limit. It's two-channel interface, built-in 1176, and a UA preamp. I can't remember the number of, like a 912 or something like that I never used back in my studio life. I've got to tell you, I plugged a Strat into that thing, sounded amazing. I plugged a Shirelli vocal mic into it, and I went, wow, this literally sounds like as good as a Neve console. It does have a slight coloration. It's got a sound, and it was like $250, maybe $275, something like that.
Yeah.
Pretty reasonably priced, sounds amazing. So I'm just blown away by how good gear has gotten. Question: Does
it's almost like you can't go wrong, really?
No, you can't. I mean, even stuff that's been out there for 10 years sounds better than what was out there 20 or 30 years ago.
Right.
Question from Tim Harrison: does the USB interface actually affect the final sound quality of your WAV files? It does if it's meant to, certainly. I mean, technically, it's turning zeros and ones into an analog thing. So if they choose to make the analog warmer or brighter or whatever, yeah, they can do that. After the zeros and ones have gone through the converter and they're getting pushed into analog land, that would be the point in the audio chain where they would add a thing that gives it a sound. So the answer in I don't have an EE degree, but yes, I know my way around a studio pretty well. My answer would be yes.
Well, if you're doing everything in the box, like it originates in the box,
mm-hmm.
then it really doesn't have anything. It won't change anything.
Right.
What it'll change, like you said, like you're going to listen to it back D to A. And so that might lead you to do certain things in your mix or change things, but it's itself is not altering the sound. You might because of the quality of the D to A that you're listening to.
Right.
Yeah. But the A to D is a big deal too. I mean, as far as like you were talking about, plugging in a guitar, plugging in mics,
that's
where you're
great.
going to see some differences.
Yeah, I years ago, Shirelli gave me one of his 87s, and he said, this one's a special one. It was in my personal stash. It just sounded amazing right off of the boat. And he gave it to me as a loaner for a road rally, and I went to give it back. He said, I want you to keep it. Anyway, it's a great sounding microphone, and going through the Volt 276, I literally felt like I was listening to an 87 coming through a Neve. The combo was so great. Ken Mesford says, Greg, you'll know how old you are when that sales rep stops calling you.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, Andre says the new UF1 just came out. It's amazing, which is an interface, it's a single fader that can be used on, it's from SSL, single fader that can be used on any channel. They've also got the UF8, which is 8 faders, and you can tandem 3 of those. So that's my dream, is to have 24 faders, because I love faders. Some people get off on cars. I just can't resist a good fader. And then people will buy, there's something about the UF1, they combine that with their UF8, and then there's a UC something that's like a channel strip that a bunch of hardcore, large-scale SSL users saying that this channel strip, if you've ever gotten used to an SSL large format console, that this makes you feel like you're using one. It's so familiar, and the quality of the build stuff. Man, it's amazing how much talk there is about that SSL stuff in here. That's good to know. Sorry, I just lost my place. Everybody's talking about how long they've had their Sweetwater reps for. The UA Volt's
Yeah.
1176 is analog. That's why it sounds so good. Yeah, nobody believes me when I tell them that they actually put an analog 1176. It's not a sim. It's not a plug-in blown into a chip. I mean, it sounds great. Um, yeah, in the
Their
eleven
plugins
seven,
sound really great too.
the what? The UA
UA's
plugins?
plug. I use
Oh,
UA's plugins. Yeah, they're really great.
yeah, they're
Yeah,
not
that's
cheap,
something on
but
absolutely every track is 1176. I have on every vocal, everything I ever do, and their LA2A and their LA3A, like all the time.
the 3A was my I used that thing to the chagrin of all of my colleagues. They laughed at me, but I loved it. They laughed at me because it wasn't complex to operate, but it sounded
Yeah.
better. The thing it sounded like dripping honey to me. I mean, just loved it. Yeah, I got the CLA stuff from Waves, and it sounds really good. Um, we had a meeting with the guys at Waves yesterday morning, and I'm trying to get them involved in the rally this year. We're we're dealing with some really nice people over there. I started the relationship when I was over in Israel like 2 years ago. Went over to their headquarters, and but now we're working with a guy who is in the States and another one who's in Israel, which is where Waves is from. And I think that the person I used to deal with there never mentioned the rally to the people we're dealing with now, and they're like, "Oh wow, we had no idea. That's cool. Tell us more." So we're at the tell us more stage, and hopefully we'll hear in a few days. They would love to be involved in the rally. Excuse me.
Cool.
Yeah, it's always blown my mind that we don't get more software people as rally sponsors, because where else are you going to find 2,000, a room of 2,000 people where 1,950 of them are all your customers, either already
Oh
or
yeah.
will be shortly? I mean, Juan Avila says, I just got a Waves DigiGrid D audio interface network base from Sweetwater. Great interface for those tired of USB. Wow. Focusrite with 5 holes is great. Do not get the small one. That's interesting information. Um, all right, I'm looking for my next question. We still have a few more minutes. Here's a question from Larry Rusev again. Does anyone have experience with overloud plugins? I do not. If anybody else does, please let them know in the chat.
Overloud.
Yeah.
Overloud.
Ken Messer
Sounds
says,
familiar.
Ken says LA3A is the solid state version of 2A. It's true. Um, and I had the last room I had in New York with the SSL, I had 3 LA2As, which are the tube version, and 4 original Pultecs that were recapped. I know. I was spoiled. What can I say? I didn't have to pay for it either. That was the best part. And a mic closet that would make anybody just like, oh my gosh. And that's where I got to go to work every day for 5.5 years. Boy, that was tough.
It sounds difficult.
Yeah. I got to work with
Overloud. No,
like,
I don't know that.
got to do like McDonald's jingles with Paul Schaefer and his band. I actually recorded Steve Gadd on drums one time for McDonald's commercial.
Wow.
Overloud is an amp simulator.
Yeah, look, I see that. I just looked them up. I don't know about them either. I never used it.
Somebody I was talking to the other day got, what's the famous amp modeler, the expensive one? I can never remember the name of it. It's like a few grand.
Uh, Let me see.
They've got to
I
work on their branding.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. I was using Line 6 for a really long time. They were
They kind of
really
invented
useful.
it, didn't they?
Yeah. I
Yeah,
mean, but
line.
then they kind of dropped off. Like they haven't
Yeah.
upgraded their software in forever.
Yeah. Line 6 was actually started at the office. It still is, I believe, right by my house, literally like 1.2 miles from my house. Do you know where the name Line 6 came from? All the
No.
guys worked at Elisa's, and whenever they wanted to meet out in the parking lot to pretend they were smoking cigarettes, they would say, Greg, you have a call in line 6. And everybody heard that over the PA, and all the people that were starting their own company would go out and have a cigarette and talk about, well, I met with the lawyer today. Yeah, Kemper,
Nice.
the Kemper modelers. Somebody I just talked to, I can't remember if it's Keith LeBrant or whoever, but somebody who I respect a lot. Like if they say this is a thing, I absolutely believe it because they're expert. Whoever it was said that they got something that was like a fraction of the price, and they actually got rid of their Kemper because they liked that new thing so much. I just can't remember what the new thing was.
I don't know. I mean, doesn't Native Instruments have a product called Guitar Rig? That's pretty popular.
Yeah, maybe that was it. I don't know.
Um, and I've also used some. I've used some plugins from IK Multimedia. They're an Italian company. Um,
From IK Multimedia. Yeah, that's the
yeah.
one.
Oh,
That's
is
the
that the
one
one?
somebody was telling me about. Because I've talked to them about coming to the rally before. They also have an office that's like a mile from my house. So does Guitar Center, oddly enough. I must live in like audio land or something. But yeah, it was IK Multimedia's box, whoever it was, that was somebody whose opinion I greatly respect. And they told me they got rid of their Kemper because the IK thing sounded so, so good.
Yeah. Their software is called Amplitube,
Right. Ken
and
Messford, just type that in.
yeah, I've used that a bunch, and yeah, but they've got a bunch of hardware also. So yeah,
Pat Wara doesn't agree with whoever told me the other thing. Okay.
it sounds different in Hawaii, so that makes sense.
Well, guys, we're actually a minute and 36 seconds over, but yeah, if you haven't booked for the rally yet, log into your taxi profile right now and click on the link and book it. We will let you know. Get the rooms. The rooms, you can't, our contract states that they cannot sell the rooms through any of the aggregators or anybody during the road rally dates for equal to or less than you guys will pay. So you won't get a better deal than going with the link that we provide you with. And yeah, we'll let you know. We will shout it loudly when the lunch tickets are available. Greg, thank you for kind of
Oh,
raising your hand and say, sure, man,
no
I'd like to
problem.
do this. Um, and thank you guys for showing up in pretty good numbers. I got to say, it felt good to be back with the band. We put the band back together. Andre wants to know, are we going to have a private Quarantini Happy Hour party again this year? I got to say, I really enjoyed the one that we did last year. There were a lot
Yeah.
of people that didn't go. I think we had like 60 people on the list, but only like 20 showed up. So I was a little disappointed about that, but I love hanging out with you guys. So yeah, I actually thought the hotel gives me a big suite with a big patio every year. I thought about having a little party up in my suite, but the last time I did it, I've probably spent 3 hours cleaning up the mess after everybody left. So there's that. And then somebody went in my bathroom. The room has two bathrooms, one in the living room, one in the bedroom. Somebody went in the bedroom bathroom and smoked a cigarette in there, which I thought was rude.
Very.
Anyway, thank you all. Should we do this again? Do you guys give me a plus one, I guess? If you think we should start doing this on a semi regular basis. I don't know that I'm going to be doing them 4 days a week like I did during the lockdown, but maybe a couple times a month or something. Although it's really hard to do that in the rally run up. I'm like working 7 days a week right now. Uh, wow, a lot of happy campers. Yeah, it was. I love doing these. I really do miss doing them. I think about them so much that it bothers me a little bit. It's like I need to go see a therapist or something. Why do I miss those guys so much? But I do. We went through a tough time in a very happy, friendly way together, and we became a little family. maybe dysfunctional family or the Manson family, but we're a family. Anyway, see you later, everybody. Don't forget to book your rally ticks. No TAXITV this coming Monday because we're doing a full staff meeting for Road Rally prep. My wife is back in town, and so the real boss will be there. So Monday it is. We will be back the following Monday, and I'm trying to get Rob Shirelli to join us. He hasn't been on for a very, very long time. He is so busy, you wouldn't believe it, and he's up to 5 Grammys now, and he's actually jettisoning some of his clients. There's so much demand for him. He just doesn't have enough time in his life to mix everybody's records that he wants to. Poor Rob. But he works really, really, really hard.
It's a shame.
Yeah. I know very few people who deserve the level of success that he's got that have worked so hard to get it, and he does. Anyway, with that, I bid you all a fond farewell, and I will see you a week from Monday on the next TAXITV Live. Thanks for coming to the happy hour. Bye-bye. And yes, that is Keith LeBrant. That was his demo that I said, I'm sorry, that's all I need right there. Bye, you guys.